Welcome to the deep dive. We're so glad you're here with us today.
Yeah, thrilled to be here.
So I want you to think, just for a second, about the last time you told a little white lie.
Oh boy.
All right. You know the exact kind I'm talking about. Maybe you told a friend you were running late because of terrible traffic when the reality was you couldn't pull yourself off the couch.
Guilty.
We all are. Or perhaps you're looking at your resume right now and realizing you bumped up your responsibilities just a tiny bit, maybe rounding up that GPA or extending a job title to sound a little more prestigious.
Just a little padding.
Exactly, a little padding.
Right.
We all do it. We do it to smooth out the rough edges of our lives, to make the social machinery run a little quieter.
Hmm.
But what happens when a lie stops being a temporary shield for your ego and instead becomes your entire identity?
That is the big question.
What happens when you decide to build a whole new life on a foundation of absolute total fabrication?
It is a genuinely terrifying premise, honestly, and it represents the very core of what we're unpacking today.
It really does.
Because we have a really fascinating piece of source material in front of us. For this deep dive, we're examining a substantial excerpt, specifically the first 15 chapters of a new psychological thriller novel.
Right.
It's titled Count My Lies by Sophie Stava. It's published by Scout Press. And let me tell you, analyzing the psychological architecture of the protagonist in these early chapters is, well, it's like watching a slow-motion car crash where the driver is actively hitting the gas.
Hitting the gas and smiling. It really is. So our mission for you today is to pull this narrative apart and look at the gears turning underneath.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack the anatomy of a compulsive liar. We're going to look closely at the stark socioeconomic contrasts of Brooklyn, which serve as this intense pressure cooker fueling our main character's envy.
Absolutely.
And naturally, we're going to connect the dots on the mounting tension and the incredibly subtle psychological manipulation that's hiding in plain sight within these pages.
And, you know, the author actually gives us a very clear roadmap for this entire psychological exploration before page 1 even begins.
Oh, the quotes?
Yes. There are 2 epigraphs that frame this book, and they're doing a lot of heavy lifting here. The first is a classic quote from Mark Twain.
Right.
He says, "If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything."
Which is just, it's just practical advice, honestly.
It really is.
The mental bandwidth required to maintain a lie is exhausting.
Precisely. It highlights the logistical nightmare of deception. You constantly have to manage the narrative.
Yeah.
But the second epigraph is where the true psychological terror lies. It's a quote from the character Tom Ripley from Patricia Highsmith's The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Right, it's a good one.
The quote is, "I always thought it would be better to be a fake somebody than a real nobody."
Chilling.
Right. These 2 quotes perfectly frame the deep dive we are about to embark on today.
Uh-huh.
On one hand, you have the suffocating burden of maintaining a false reality. And on the other, you have this profound, aching, desperate desire for visibility that drives the protagonist to ignore that burden entirely.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start by looking at the anatomy of our fabulist,
Let's do it.
who is Sloane Caraway. Because if you just look at the surface, her life doesn't exactly scream criminal mastermind.
No, not at all.
If anything, it seems incredibly mundane.
Mundane is the perfect word for it. The text introduces us to Sloane as a woman in her early 30s, and she's living with her mother in Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn.
Right.
Now, the living situation is critical to understanding her psyche. Her mother suffers from incredibly severe rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, she's really unwell.
She's practically immobilized. She spends her days in a recliner watching true crime reruns. And they live in a cramped, dark, rent-controlled apartment.
Right, and they only have this apartment because they inherited an old, practically ancient lease from a deceased aunt.
Yes.
So their rent is locked in at under $1,000 a month. And if you know anything about the Brooklyn real estate market,
It's impossible.
it's basically a mythological scenario.
Exactly. And the author makes a point to note that the neighbors living directly above Sloane are paying 4.5 times that amount for the exact same square footage.
Wow.
So every single day, Sloane is physically surrounded by wealth that she cannot access.
Yeah.
She is economically trapped in a space she could never afford on her own, acting as a caretaker for a mother who is slowly deteriorating. It establishes this baseline of chronic, simmering resentment.
It really does. So how does she make money? She's working as a nail technician at this highly curated boutique day spa called Rose and Honey.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the kicker, And I have to jump in here because this detail blew my
Oh,
mind.
I know what you're going to say.
Even her totally normal blue-collar job is built on a scam, right?
It is. It absolutely is. When Sloane applied for the job at Rose and Honey, she didn't have any formal training.
Done.
The text reveals that she literally bought a forged cosmetology license off a random guy on Venmo for $50.
$50 on Venmo.
Right. She learned how to do deluxe manicures and pedicures by sitting in her dark apartment, pausing YouTube tutorials, and practicing on her mother's arthritic hands.
Which is incredibly bold.
Yeah.
But it also establishes a pattern. She admits right to the reader that she's a compulsive liar. But she isn't just lying to get ahead professionally. It's woven into her DNA.
That's the crucial distinction here. We need to look at the etiology of her behavior. Why does Sloane lie?
Right. Where does it come from?
Well, the author takes us back into her childhood to explain this, and it stems from a profound trauma of instability. Growing up, her mother's illness meant she was constantly losing jobs. They were perpetually on the move, hopping from one shabby short-term rental to another.
Always running.
Exactly, constantly trying to outrun late rent notices and utility shutoffs. Sloane was always a new kid.
And think about what that does to a child's brain. If you're listening to this and you moved around a lot as a kid, you know how hard it is to establish an identity when your environment keeps resetting.
It's exhausting.
But for Sloane, it was worse. She talks about standing at the front of a new classroom, introducing herself for the 5th time that year, and realizing that absolutely no one, not the students, not even the teacher, was actually looking at her.
Right.
She describes feeling like a crumpled piece of paper tossed on the floor, just total, utter invisibility.
It's a devastating image, and that feeling of invisibility is the catalyst for her first major fabrication.
Yeah, the 5th grade story.
Right. The text gives us this pivotal turning point. They had just moved to a new town in Georgia. Sloane goes out to the playground, and she encounters a girl named Bianca.
Of course, Bianca.
Bianca is the quintessential cool girl. She has neon rubber bracelets, perfectly cut bangs, a lot of social capital, and Bianca asks Sloane where she's from. And in that precise moment, Sloane realizes she is a blank canvas.
Right.
The psychological term for this is tabula rasa. No one knows her history, so her history can be whatever she wants it to be.
So instead of saying she just moved from a dingy apartment a few towns over, she blurts out, California. And the immediate reaction she gets changes her brain chemistry forever.
Yes, it really does. The other girls are instantly intrigued, and because Sloane gets a taste of that attention, she immediately escalates the lie.
She can't help herself.
She doesn't just stop at California. She claims her father is a famous movie star who is currently filming on location.
Naturally.
Suddenly, she isn't the poor new kid with the sick mom. She has power. She has their undivided attention.
It's the ultimate overcompensation.
Yeah.
She invents this wildly elaborate fictional life. She tells them she has a massive backyard pool with a water slide, a sparkly princess canopy bed, and a brand new puppy named Pickles.
Pickles.
Right, and she even takes kitchen shears and hacks off her own hair to give herself bangs just so she can physically mirror Bianca, the cool girl.
Which is a brilliant foreshadowing of her mimicking behavior later in the book.
Totally.
But the tragedy of this childhood lie is that it actually creates the very isolation she was trying to escape.
How so?
Well, think about the logistics of her lie. The more elaborate the fiction becomes, the more she has to keep these new friends at arm's length.
Oh, right.
She can never invite Bianca over for a playdate because if she does, Bianca will see the rotting carpets, the lack of a pool, and the distinct absence of a movie star dad and a puppy named Pickles.
The lie becomes a cage.
Exactly.
So how does a 5th grader solve the problem of a lie getting too big? With an even bigger, more catastrophic lie. I couldn't believe this part of the excerpt.
It's quite dark. To explain why no one can come over, Sloane goes to school and tells her friends that her beautiful fictional house burned down in a terrible fire.
Oh my gosh.
She claims the fire destroyed her canopy bed and tragically killed her fictional puppy.
Which is an insane escalation. And of course, the school reacts the way any normal community would.
With empathy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They organize a massive bake sale and set up a meal train for Sloane's family, which completely and utterly exposes the lie to her very confused and then highly horrified mother.
The fallout is severe. She's dragged into the principal's office, her mother is deeply humiliated, and Sloane is punished.
Yeah.
But here's the psychological insight the author provides. You would assume that the extreme humiliation of getting caught in such a massive public lie would cure her of the habit.
Right, you'd think so.
But it does the exact opposite.
Right. Sloane specifically notes that the punishment didn't teach her that lying was wrong. It only taught her that she needed to be a better liar.
Yes.
She learned that she needed to construct lies that couldn't be easily verified by a school bake sale.
Exactly. It forced her to refine her methodology. And that brings us to her present-day adulthood. Her lying is no longer a defense mechanism, it's a pathology. She describes the act of lying as slipping into a favorite shirt. Snug, comfortable, well-worn. She lies to her clients at the nail salon constantly, partly for the sport of it and partly for the financial benefit.
There is a scene that illustrates this so perfectly. She is doing a pedicure for a very wealthy client. She secretly nicknames Dolly Parton in her head.
Yep.
And just casually, to fill the silence, Sloane invents this incredibly tragic specific story. She tells the client that she accidentally spilled a cup of coffee on her MacBook.
Which completely fried the hard drive.
Right, and erased the last 50 pages of a novel she's supposed to have been writing for 3 years.
A novel that does not exist, on a MacBook she does not own.
Exactly. But the wealthy client is so emotionally moved by this fake, struggling artist tragedy that she pulls out a crisp $100 bill and tips Sloane with it.
Wow.
So not only is the lie comfortable, the world is actively rewarding her for it.
But I think we need to look beyond the financial transaction here, because the text explicitly states that it's not just about the money or manipulating people.
What else is it?
Sloane admits that sometimes, in the middle of telling a lie, she actually starts to believe it herself.
Early.
Yeah. By repeating these fabrications, she enters a sort of dissociative trance. It's a fantasy state that allows her to mentally check out of her incredibly dreary, exhausting reality as a caretaker and a low-wage worker.
And I think if you, the listener, really interrogate that idea, it's not as alien as it sounds.
No, it's not.
We all curate our lives, right? We all engage in selective storytelling. If you scroll through your social media right now, you are looking at a highly edited version of reality.
Absolutely.
You post the vacation photos where the lighting is perfect, you post the career updates, but you completely omit the days you spend crying in your car or the fights you have with your spouse.
Right.
We all have a baseline human urge to present an idealized version of ourselves. But Sloane takes that universal urge and completely pathologizes it. She entirely erases the line between aspiration and delusion.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. She takes the filter we all use and applies it to her fundamental identity.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, how does this deeply ingrained habit of casual, self-serving deception trigger the central thriller plot of the book?
Right.
Let's move into the inciting incident, which takes place in a highly manicured neighborhood green space called Quailwood Park.
I love how the author sets this scene. It's a beautiful, lazy, late spring day. Sloane is sitting on a patch of grass in the park, and she is reading a dog-eared copy of Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express.
Such a great detail.
Which, by the way, is a fantastic thematic nod by the author, considering that book is entirely about a group of people who are all hiding their true identities and their complicity in a crime.
It's a very clever Easter egg. So Sloane is sitting there in her mauve scrubs from the nail salon, and across the park, the tranquility is shattered. She hears a little girl absolutely screaming and wailing.
This little girl is Harper, and we quickly learn she has just stepped on a bee. Now, Harper's father is there trying to comfort her. His name is Jay Lockhart.
Right.
And the author makes sure we understand exactly how Jay looks through Sloane's eyes. He is movie star handsome.
Yeah.
She describes him as having a teenage heartthrob face, tall, dark hair, this very obvious, charming dimple.
Of course.
But right now, he is completely flustered. He's panicking over his crying daughter. He doesn't know what to do. And Sloane, who admits she is chronically nosy, wanders over to see what's going on.
And this is the moment the trap is set.
Yeah.
When Jay looks up at her, this beautiful, desperate man looking for help, the lie just bypasses her prefrontal cortex completely.
Automatic.
She says the lie falls out of her mouth like a pair of tin cans tied to a bumper. She looks at him and says, "I'm a nurse."
It's pure reflex. But what makes this scene so tense is that I'm reading it thinking, Sloane, you do nails for a living. How are you possibly going to fake medical expertise right now?
Right.
But she pulls it off effortlessly.
She does, and it's important to analyze how she pulls it off. This isn't just blind luck.
Yep.
We see the actual mechanics of a successful deception in action.
Okay, lay it out for us.
Sloane doesn't just rely on the visual prop of her mauve scrubs, though that certainly helps establish immediate authority. She actually uses a piece of real lived experience to sell the fake credential.
Right. She remembers that she herself had stepped on a bee in that exact same park the previous summer.
Yes.
And she had made a rookie mistake of pinching the stinger to try and pull it out, which just squeezed all the venom into her foot and caused it to swell up like a bright pink sausage for a week.
Exactly. So she uses that painful memory to sound incredibly authoritative. She expertly instructs Jay, using a very calm, clinical tone, not to squeeze the stinger.
Right.
Instead, she tells him he needs a flat edge to scrape it out and suggests he use a credit card.
And here's where the manipulation gets almost predatory. When Jay frantically pulls out his wallet to find a credit card, Sloane's eyes immediately dart to the plastic.
Oh, yeah.
She isn't looking at the stinger. She is looking at the name embossed on the card, Jay Lockhart. She immediately romanticizes the name, comparing it to Jay Gatsby, wealthy, mysterious, alluring.
It's a textbook execution of a con. She presents herself as calm, authoritative, and helpful while secretly extracting personal information. And Jay's reaction is exactly what you would expect from a panicked parent. He feels immense, profound relief. He literally calls her a guardian angel and the patron saint of the park.
Wow.
He trusts her implicitly, entirely because of the scrubs and the confident way she gave instructions.
And the author introduces a very palpable physical tension here, too. To help with the swelling, Sloane hands Jay a cold can of sparkling water she had in her bag.
Right.
When he takes it from her, their fingers brush, and Sloane describes feeling an absolute jolt of electricity. It's a visceral, romantic spark.
Oh.
So, of course, when Jay asks for her name, she can't give him her real one. She introduces herself as Caitlin.
Which is a highly specific choice of alias. Where does Caitlin come from?
It's a ghost from her childhood. Caitlin was a girl from her childhood ballet class who had perfect, pristine satin slippers and a glossy braid.
Oh.
And Sloane looks at little Harper, who also has a glossy braid, and just borrows the identity of a girl she envied 20 years ago.
This raises an important question, though, and it's one we should really dig into. If Sloane felt the spark, and if she wanted a chance to get to know this incredibly handsome man, why hide? Why not just say, I'm Sloane, I work at the nail salon down the street?
I think it goes right back to the Tom Ripley epigraph, the fear of being a real nobody.
Precisely. Sloane's fundamental belief is that her true self, the tired woman living with her sick mother, working a service job, is utterly unlovable and completely uninteresting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But Caitlin the nurse, Caitlin is a hero. Caitlin is capable and composed. By assuming this identity, she isn't just lying to Jay. She is escaping her own profound insecurity.
And her imagination is just running completely wild in this scene. She's scanning his hands, she notices he isn't wearing a wedding ring, and instantly she's casting herself in a romantic comedy.
Oh, the movie fantasy.
Yes, the text explicitly mentions that she is fantasizing about the movie Jersey Girl. She wants to be the quirky, beautiful Liv Tyler character comforting a grieving, wealthy, widowed, single dad played by Ben Affleck.
Oh.
She so desperately wants to be the savior to this incredibly attractive father-daughter duo.
But the author brilliantly punctures that fantasy balloon almost immediately.
Up.
As they are talking, Jay casually mentions that his wife is usually the one who brings Harper to the park, but he happened to have the week off for spring break.
The devastation is so real. The fantasy of the tragic, wealthy widower evaporates in an instant.
It does.
But even though the romantic delusion is shattered, the danger of the lie has already been set in motion.
That is the critical takeaway from this chapter. Sloane's lie has crossed a massive, terrifying boundary.
Oh, big time.
It's one thing to tell a client at a nail salon that you ruined a fake manuscript to get a bigger tip. That's harmless self-aggrandizement.
Right.
But faking a medical background and giving instructions when a child is injured, that is reckless endangerment. It is a ticking time bomb.
It really is.
But the tragic flaw of Sloane's character is that the thrill of the interaction, the way Jay looked at her with such pure admiration and respect, completely overrides any moral hesitation or fear of consequence.
It's an addiction to being perceived as valuable. And it leads us seamlessly into the thematic core of the book.
Yeah.
Because Count My Lies isn't just a character study of a liar. It is a razor-sharp, incredibly observant commentary on wealth, envy, and the mechanics of upward mobility in modern New York.
The socioeconomic geography of the book is practically a character in itself. The author paints this striking, almost painful contrast between the lives of Sloane and the Lockharts.
Totally.
We've already established Sloane's reality, The cramped rent-controlled apartment, the constant hum of the true crime television, the smell of medicinal creams for her mother's arthritis. But let's look at what she discovers when she goes home and literally stalks the Lockharts online.
Oh, the Redfin stalking. It is such a relatable modern behavior, but Sloane takes it to an extreme.
She really does.
She looks up Jay's name and finds their property. They live a short walk away in the neighborhood of Cobble Hill, and their house is a stunning, newly restored, extra-wide brownstone that recently sold for $3.25 million.
So, geographically, they are practically neighbors, but socioeconomically, they exist in entirely different stratospheres.
Right.
And this proximity to extreme wealth without any access to it is what makes Sloane so dangerous.
Her resentment is being actively fueled every single day at her job. We have to talk about the scene at the Rose and Honey Spa with the Aviator Nation sweatshirt, because I think it perfectly encapsulates why Sloane hates and envies these people so much.
It's a brilliantly agonizing scene to read.
It is.
Sloane is assigned to give a pedicure to a college-aged girl. The author describes the girl's outfit meticulously. An Aviator Nation hoodie, which is essentially a $200 sweatshirt meant to look casually worn in, paired with oversized Shailene sunglasses indoors.
Sloane starts running the water for the foot basin,
Right?
and she politely asks the girl if the temperature's okay or if it's too hot.
Right.
And the girl doesn't even make eye contact. She doesn't speak. She literally just points a manicured finger at her AirPods and mouths the words, "I'm on the phone."
It's the ultimate microaggression. In that moment, the wealthy girl does not view Sloane as a human being with thoughts, feelings, or dignity.
No.
Sloane is just a piece of infrastructure. She is an appliance there to scrub dead skin off her feet.
And the rage Sloane feels is so visceral.
Yeah.
She stands there holding the water controls, and she imagines turning the hot water dial all the way up to scalding just to watch the girl's skin blister, just to force this girl to acknowledge her existence.
She despises the invisibility forced upon her by her class status. And when you understand that rage, you understand why the Lockharts become such an obsession for her.
Absolutely.
The Lockharts represent everything Sloane has been denied her entire life. Massive wealth, extreme stability, effortless aesthetic perfection, and most importantly, visibility in the world.
Which brings us to the introduction of Violet Lockhart, Jay's wife.
Here we go.
A few days after the bee sting incident, Sloane is back in the park, and she finally meets the woman who destroyed her Jersey Girl fantasy. And Violet is the absolute terrifying embodiment of this wealthy Brooklyn ideal.
The author's description of Violet is designed to make the reader feel inadequate.
It works.
She is flawless. She's wearing a crisp white button-up shirt, perfectly tailored linen shorts, and an $85 caramel-colored fedora that manages to look effortlessly chic rather than costumey.
Right.
She has a massive, pebble-sized diamond engagement ring catching the sunlight. And she talks with that specific brand of casual, self-deprecating wealth. She jokes about how she owns a $3,000 Peloton bike, but she mostly just uses it as an expensive clothing rack for her dry cleaning.
It is a level of ease that requires immense financial security. If you or I spent $3,000 on a stationary bike and didn't use it, we'd feel incredible guilt.
Exactly.
Violet just turns it into a charming anecdote.
But what is truly fascinating here is how Sloane reacts to Violet. Given her anger toward the girl in the nail salon, you would expect Sloane to hate Violet.
Yeah, you would.
You'd expect her to resent this perfect, wealthy wife who has the handsome husband and the $3.25 million brownstone, but she doesn't.
No, she is completely enchanted by her.
She is mesmerized, and it's because Violet doesn't treat her like an appliance.
Right.
Violet is warm, she is engaging, she remembers the fake name Caitlin. She thanks her profusely and genuinely for stepping in to help Harper with the bee sting, and she even casually suggests that Sloane should come over to their house for dinner sometime.
Wow.
For Sloane, this validation from a woman of Violet's status is absolutely intoxicating.
But this intoxication triggers a deeply unsettling psychological response. Sloane doesn't just want to be Violet's friend. She starts actively mimicking her.
This part is wild.
As soon as she has a free hour, Sloane walks to a local boutique and spends her hard-earned, limited money to buy the exact same $85 caramel-colored fedora that Violet was wearing.
It's a form of identity theft that starts with aesthetics.
And it gets worse. Later on, Violet compliments a cheap chain-link pearl necklace that Sloane is wearing.
Oh, the necklace.
And Sloane, without missing a beat, lies and says it's a priceless family heirloom passed down from her grandmother.
Oh.
But the internal monologue reveals that Sloane actually plans to go back to the cheap boutique, buy a duplicate of the fake pearls, put them in a fancy velvet-lined box, and present them to Violet, claiming she had a copy made specifically for her.
If we connect this back to the broader themes of the thriller genre, this is a classic trope of parasitic aspiration. Sloane isn't interested in a reciprocal friendship. She wants to absorb Violet's life.
Yeah.
There is a deeply disturbing moment in the text where Sloane is lying in her own bed, in her cramped, dark bedroom, and she literally closes her eyes and fantasizes about what it would feel like to slip between the high thread count sheets of the Lockhart's bed.
Shivers.
She imagines lying next to Jay, his arm heavily slung across her chest, breathing in the expensive air of their brownstone. She wants to consume their existence.
It is incredibly creepy. I was reading that part and thinking, okay, this woman is a total stalker.
Right.
But here is the magic trick the author pulls off. Sloane's internal monologue is so pathetic, and her desire to escape her grim reality is so palpable that you almost catch yourself rooting for her to pull off the con. You want her to escape the nail salon and get an invitation to the brownstone.
The author makes us complicit in her deception. We are riding shotgun in the getaway car.
Exactly. But just as Sloane starts making real, tangible headway with the Lockharts, just as she starts securing her place in their orbit, a massive ghost from her real life kicks the door down and shatters her safe space.
This is the turning point of the excerpt, where the psychological drama abruptly shifts into high-stakes thriller territory. The collision of Sloane's hidden past and her fabricated present.
The scene is masterfully paced. Sloane is back at the Rose and Honey Spa. They are incredibly busy, she's rushed, and she sits down on her rolling stool to start a deluxe pedicure on a walk-in client.
Okay.
She's looking down at her tray, sorting her tools, and she doesn't look closely at the woman's face at first.
But then the sensory details start snapping into focus. She notices a flash of bright auburn red hair. She looks up and sees the client's high cheekbones, her striking blue eyes, and specifically a heavy, expensive Bulgari bracelet dangling from her wrist.
And Sloane's blood runs cold. Because she knows exactly who this woman is.
Yes, she does.
Her name is Allison McIntyre, and the reaction from Allison is explosive.
It's intense.
The second Allison realizes who is sitting at her feet, she violently jerks her bare feet out of the soaking basin, sending hot water sloshing all over the floor, all over Sloane's scrubs.
Allison's face contorts into this visceral mix of sheer, unadulterated terror and pure rage.
Right.
In the middle of this crowded, hush, relaxing day spa, Allison starts screaming at the top of her lungs. She points directly at Sloane and yells, "I told you to stay away from me."
Oh, man.
She scrambles for her designer purse, practically tripping over herself to get to the door, and flees the building, leaving the entire salon staring at Sloane in dead silence.
It is such a brilliant, shocking reveal. Up until this exact moment, chapter after chapter, we only knew Sloane as a sad, somewhat pathetic liar who took care of her sick mom.
Right. A mostly harmless fabulous.
We thought her biggest crime was making up stories to get a better tip. Suddenly, the floor drops out, and we realize she has a dark, potentially violent, hidden past.
As Sloane flees the salon floor, hyperventilating, and hides in a dirty alleyway filled with broken cardboard boxes behind the building, the author finally begins to dole out the exposition we've been waiting for.
And it's a lot.
We learn that Sloane's life used to look very different.
Right. She isn't just an uneducated nail tech. We find out she actually has a 4-year college degree in early childhood education. She used to be a highly respected preschool teacher at an incredibly exclusive $50,000 a year private school called Mockingbird Montessori.
And her connection to wealth wasn't just observational. She was deeply embedded in it.
Yeah.
She was the beloved, highly paid private nanny for Allison McIntyre's 2 young children, Ellie and Benji. The text describes how Sloane spent practically every day at Allison's sprawling high-rise apartment, looking out over the Manhattan skyline, acting as a surrogate member of the family.
So she had already achieved the exact life she is currently trying to steal from the Lockharts.
Yes.
But something went horribly, catastrophically wrong. The author refuses to tell us exactly what happened. But we learned that 18 months ago, there was an incident.
And the aftermath of this unnamed incident was total scorched earth destruction for Sloane. She was abruptly and permanently fired from Mockingbird Montessori.
Gone.
She was completely ostracized by the wealthy community she had served. Not a single teacher, parent, or former friend would return her calls. And the most damning detail of all, Allison McIntyre took out a court-ordered 100-yard restraining order against her.
The fallout from Allison walking into the spa is immediate and brutal. Sloane is called into the back office and gets officially fired by her boss, Lena. Lena cites the massive scene Allison caused, combined with Sloane's recent distracted behavior and unreliability. So now, Sloane has lost her only source of legitimate income.
But the consequences don't stop there. Later that evening, while Sloane is back in her cramped apartment, there is a loud knock on the door.
It's never good news.
It's a police officer, Officer Martinez. He has come specifically to remind Sloane of the strict parameters of the restraining order because Allison reported the encounter at the spa.
This interaction with the police officer is where the psychological profile of Sloane gets truly terrifying. If you are looking for a masterclass in an unreliable narrator's self-delusion, this is it.
Exactly. When you or I read about a restraining order, we assume the person restricted did something deeply threatening or harmful. But Sloane's internal monologue completely rejects that reality.
She doesn't buy it at all.
She genuinely, deeply believes she is the victim of a massive misunderstanding.
She stands there in her doorway and tells Officer Martinez, with absolute conviction, I didn't do anything wrong.
It's wild.
She even tries to twist the narrative, insisting that because Allison was the one who walked into the spa where Sloane worked, Allison was actually the one violating the order to harass her.
It is an incredible display of cognitive dissonance. She completely minimizes whatever catastrophic event led a judge who requires a high burden of proof to grant a restraining order in the first place. And to maintain her facade of innocence, she lies to her own mother, claiming the police officer was just a chatty new neighbor asking about garbage collection days.
The suspense the author creates here is so expertly crafted. By deliberately withholding the exact nature of Sloane's crime against Allison's family, we are forced into a state of intense paranoia.
Absolutely.
We know Sloane is a compulsive liar. Therefore, her internal monologue claiming innocence means absolutely nothing. We simply cannot trust her. We have no idea what she is truly capable of when she gets backed into a corner.
Which retroactively changes everything we just read about her interaction with the Lockharts. It makes her current pursuit of them deeply existentially alarming. We now know, objectively, that she has a documented history of embedding herself in a wealthy family's life and having it end in a legal restraining order and total social excommunication.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because you'd think, given her history, Sloane would run in the opposite direction of another wealthy family.
You would think.
But instead, the Lockharts are about to invite the vampire right over the threshold.
The author constructs a scenario where the infiltration is almost inevitable. Violet Lockhart and Sloane, or rather Caitlin, meet up for a walk in the neighborhood, and Violet is visibly stressed. She makes a desperate, vulnerable plea to Sloane.
Violet explains that she used to have a high-powered career as an attorney before they moved to New York. She desperately wants to reclaim her identity and pass the New York bar exam, which requires hundreds of hours of intense, uninterrupted studying.
A lot of work.
But she cannot find reliable childcare. And Violet doesn't just want any nanny. She specifically, urgently wants Caitlin to take the job.
And we have to examine why Violet is so fixated on Caitlin. It's not just because they had a nice chat. It's because Violet fundamentally believes Caitlin is a registered nurse.
Right.
And this is where the stakes of the novel elevate from a quirky psychological drama into a scenario with genuine life-or-death consequences.
This detail made my stomach drop. Violet casually drops the information that little Harper has a severe chronic heart condition.
Yeah.
When she was a baby, she contracted a viral infection that permanently damaged her heart tissue. She suffers from unpredictable fainting spells, and Violet reveals the terrifying fact that Harper once had to be revived with an actual defibrillator.
This is a mother's worst nightmare. Violet is understandably terrified of leaving her medically fragile child with a standard, untrained teenage babysitter. She needs peace of mind. She needs someone with a verifiable medical background who can intervene in a cardiac emergency.
And the psychological trap just snaps shut perfectly around Sloane. Violet offers her $35 an hour to nanny multiple days a week.
That's a lot of money.
For Sloane, who was just fired and is staring down the barrel of her mother's medical bills, this is an astronomical amount.
But ethically and practically, it is a monstrous risk. Yet Sloane eagerly accepts. And the mental gymnastics she performs to justify this decision are staggering.
Oh, the justification is wild.
She reminds herself that she does know basic CPR from her time as a preschool teacher, and she recalls dealing with kids who had minor issues like asthma or diabetes. She completely equates applying an EpiPen with managing a complex pediatric cardiac condition. She convinces herself she is qualified.
The hubris is astounding. But the tension becomes almost unbearable because Sloane makes a horrifying discovery during this exact same conversation.
The school?
Violet mentions where Harper goes to preschool for half days, and it is Mockingbird Montessori.
The exact same highly exclusive, insulated preschool where Sloane's life imploded 18 months ago. The school where she is a known pariah.
Not only that, but it's a small community. Allison McIntyre's daughter, Ellie, is almost certainly still a student there.
It is a phenomenal plot twist that tightens the screws on the narrative. Sloane is voluntarily entering the absolute epicenter of her past trauma.
She's walking right back into the fire.
She knows that one wrong move at the school pickup line, one chance encounter with Allison dropping off a lunchbox, or one glance from the school principal, and the police will be called. Her new life, her freedom, and her access to the Lockharts will be destroyed in seconds. Yet, the gravitational pull of Lockhart's wealth is so strong, she accepts the job anyway.
And the author doesn't let us wait to see the tension play out. We immediately see Sloane navigating this incredibly dangerous high-wire act. On her very first day, there's a deeply tense scene in the kitchen.
Right, the hand washing.
Harper is asked to wash her hands before having a snack, and she completely melts down. It is a massive, full-body, screaming, kicking tantrum on the hardwood floor.
And you can see the sheer absolute panic on Violet's face. Violet isn't just annoyed by the tantrum. She is terrified that the physical stress and the spiking heart rate will trigger a cardiac event for Harper right there in the kitchen.
This is the moment where Caitlin the nurse is supposed to step in with medical authority. But instead, Sloane draws on her actual, legitimate skills as a veteran preschool teacher.
Yeah, she pivots.
She gets down on the floor, lowers her voice, and completely redirects the energy. She turns hand-washing into a silly, playful game. She asks Harper in a very serious tone if she should put the soap on her nose or in her ears instead of her hands.
It's a classic de-escalation technique, and it works flawlessly. Harper stops crying, starts giggling, and happily goes to the sink. The tantrum evaporates.
Magic.
And the look Violet gives Sloane in that moment is one of profound, overwhelming gratitude. In Violet's mind, Caitlin just saved her daughter from a potential hospital visit. Her trust is entirely, irrevocably cemented.
But internally, while Violet is practically crying with relief, Sloane is sweating bullets. Because in that moment, she realizes how incredibly close she just came to a medical emergency. She is entirely, hopelessly unqualified to handle. She looked down the barrel of a loaded gun.
Yet, instead of backing out, she pushes forward. She becomes a master tactician, constantly adjusting her lies to survive the environment.
We see this beautifully during a dinner party at the Lockhart's house. Violet is pouring drinks and offers Sloane a glass of expensive wine.
Right.
Sloane knows that if she gets drunk, she might slip up and reveal a detail about her real life. So she casually declines, saying she doesn't drink.
And this seemingly small lie actually works massively in her favor. Violet is thrilled to have a sober companion. She pours them both ginger ale and crystal champagne flutes, and they have this intense bonding moment over how annoying it is when society constantly assumes a woman is pregnant just because she declines alcohol.
Right. And to seal the deal, Sloane invents a bizarre medical excuse, claiming that alcohol gives her massive, itchy, cherry red hives all over her chest. It's such a specific, weird detail that it sounds completely true.
She also expertly backpedals on the original nursing lie to protect herself. She realizes she can't pretend to be an active nurse working hospital shifts while also nannying 5 days a week.
Oh.
The math doesn't work, so she pivots. She invents a tragic backstory that she is currently on a leave of absence from an advanced nursing program because she has to be the full-time caretaker for her mother.
And this is where she incorporates her mother's actual illness, but she punches it up for dramatic effect. She escalates her mother's rheumatoid arthritis into full-blown, life-threatening lupus.
Wow.
A medical history that she completely steals from her coworker Natasha's mother back at the nail salon.
It is calculated, it is highly manipulative, and it is incredibly effective. Violet eats the story up with a spoon. She views Sloane not just as a competent employee, but as a noble, selfless, tragic caretaker who deserves to be rescued.
If you want to understand the psychology of what Sloane is experiencing here, there is a concept psychologists refer to as duping delight.
Ah, yes, duping delight.
It's the thrill, the neurological rush of pleasure and adrenaline a liar gets from successfully deceiving others right to their faces.
It's a literal dopamine hit. Sloane is absolutely thriving on the edge of the knife. She is walking a tightrope without a net, knowing that a single slip-up could destroy her. Yeah.
But she is addicted to the power it gives her over these wealthy people. She loves sitting in that $3.25 million brownstone, drinking out of crystal flutes, knowing she hacked her way inside.
But here's the brilliant pivot in the narrative. As Sloane becomes more and more entrenched in their daily lives, working 5 days a week, sitting on the floor, making Taylor Swift friendship bracelets with Harper, doing morning yoga routines with Violet, her intense, stalker-like observation skills start picking up on things that do not fit the picture-perfect narrative she projected onto them.
What's fascinating here is that we have been so deeply focused on Sloane's massive web of deception that we almost forgot to ask the most important question in any domestic thriller. What are the Lockharts hiding?
Because it turns out the people living inside the glass house are throwing plenty of stones. The author lays out a trail of breadcrumbs that suggests this marriage is a facade.
Let's look at the clues Sloane uncovers. Clue number 1 is an architectural anomaly that Sloane notices almost immediately upon entering the house for the first time.
The photos. Despite the incredible wealth, the beautiful renovations, and the highly curated family dynamic they project to the world, there are absolutely zero family photographs anywhere on the walls.
None. No posed wedding pictures, no candid vacation shots from a beach in Cabo, no awkward family portraits. The walls are meticulously covered in expensive, abstract modern art. And there is exactly one lone, small picture of Harper sitting on a bookshelf.
For a family that is so outwardly obsessed with appearances and status, the deliberate absence of photographic history is a glaring red flag.
It's huge.
Sloane even explicitly compares it to Alison McIntyre's house in her memories, which was plastered floor to ceiling with giant canvas gallery prints of her kids and family milestones. The Lockhart's house feels sterile. It feels erased.
It's just super weird. It implies they don't want to look at their past or they don't want guests asking questions about it.
Yeah.
But clue number 2 is much more active and terrifying.
Yes.
This happens right after Sloane gets fired from the nail salon, before she gets the nanny job. She had nothing to do, so she is obsessively walking by the Lockhart's house, basically stalking them from the sidewalk.
She is hiding behind a large tree across the street, peering through their open floor-to-ceiling bay window, and she secretly witnesses a moment that was never meant for public consumption.
She sees Violet having a furious, intense, tearful phone call. Violet is pacing the living room like a caged animal. She is crying, wiping away mascara, completely frantic.
Unraveling.
And then, in a sudden, shocking fit of absolute unhinged rage, she winds her arm back and violently throws her cell phone directly across the room, smashing it into the couch, screaming soundlessly behind the glass.
It is a terrifying glimpse of a woman completely unraveling behind closed doors. The effortless $85 fedora-wearing Violet is a mask. Underneath, she is buckling under some immense, unseen pressure.
And then there is clue number 3, which comes directly from the husband, Jay. And this is the moment where Sloane realizes she might be in over her head.
The kitchen scene.
One morning, Sloane arrives at the house early for her shift. Violet is still out dropping Harper at the Montessori school, and Jay is home alone. He is fresh out of the shower, walking through the kitchen shirtless, drying his hair with a towel.
The author deliberately ramps up the sexual tension here. Sloane has been fantasizing about him for weeks, but Jay's demeanor shifts abruptly. The charming, flustered dad from the park disappears.
He's gone.
He corners Sloane in the kitchen, steps uncomfortably close to her, his face deadly serious, and asks her a highly cryptic, loaded question. Has she said anything to you about us?
It is such a chilling moment. About us. Not about Harper. Not about the house. About the marriage. Sloane, to her credit, plays dumb and deflects the question. Jay quickly backtracks, puts on a dress shirt, and leaves for work.
But the damage is done.
Exactly. That one question proves definitively that there's a massive, festering rift in this marriage. Jay is actively paranoid that Violet might be spilling their dark secrets to her new best friend, Caitlin.
And all of this underlying tension culminates in a truly bizarre, deeply uncomfortable Sunday boat trip.
Oh, the boat trip.
Violet invites Sloane out on their private sailboat to celebrate their shared Gemini birthdays. It's supposed to be a fun, relaxed afternoon on the water, but the interpersonal dynamics on the boat are incredibly toxic.
It's basically a floating pressure cooker. Violet and little Harper are sequestered up at the very front of the boat, looking out at the water, largely ignoring the adults, and Jay takes Sloane to the back of the boat, claiming he wants to teach her how to steer the tiller and work the ropes.
And his behavior crosses every conceivable boundary of appropriate conduct for a married man whose wife is 20 feet away.
He is wildly inappropriate. He stands directly behind Sloane, pressing his chest into her back. He wraps his arms completely around hers to hold the ropes.
Right.
He tells her, in this low, intimate voice, to lean back and let him support her weight. He is breathing right on her neck. He is teasing her about how tight she's gripping the tiller. He's making intense eye contact. He's winking at her. It is highly flirtatious, bordering on a blatant physical proposition.
Which forces the reader, and Sloane, to question the entire reality of the situation. Does Violet see what is happening right behind her? Is she deliberately ignoring it because this is a pattern of behavior she has learned to tolerate, or is she completely oblivious?
And to make matters even more complicated, during a subsequent coffee date, Violet makes a shocking confession to Sloane. She starts talking with intense, lingering nostalgia about her childhood best friend and first love, a boy named Danny, who has a specific distinguishing scar on his eyebrow.
Yeah.
She describes the kiss they shared years ago with such deep, aching longing, leaving Sloane completely stunned.
It begs the question, does Violet even love Jay at all? Or is she trapped in a gilded cage of his making, dreaming of a boy with a scar?
It completely flips the entire narrative on its head. For the first 10 chapters we are watching Sloane, we view her as the predator, the compulsive liar, the parasite, infiltrating this perfect, innocent family.
Right.
But suddenly, as we hit chapter 15, we are forced to reevaluate the board.
The power dynamics are entirely inverted. We have to wonder, has Sloane unwittingly walked directly into a trap? Is Jay manipulating Sloane for his own ends? Perhaps he is trying to make Violet jealous. Or perhaps he is looking for a convenient, naive exit strategy from a miserable marriage. Is Violet's perfection just a carefully constructed lie of its own, designed to hide a deeply unhappy, volatile woman?
What I love about this is how the author masterfully manipulates our sympathies. We find ourselves, against all logic, actively rooting for Sloane, a woman with an active restraining order who fakes medical credentials to act as a nanny for a sick child.
It's crazy.
We root for her because we start to realize that the shiny, wealthy, perfect couple she's targeting might actually be far more toxic, manipulative, and dangerous than she could ever dream of being.
It's a brilliant subversion of the standard domestic thriller trope. The predator becomes the prey, and the idealized victims are revealed to be monsters themselves.
It really is. The sheer amount of tension the author has built in just these first 15 chapters is unbelievable. Let's just recap the powder keg we were sitting on here.
Okay, let's do it.
We have a compulsive liar hiding a devastating past and an active restraining order. She is working as a fake nurse for a child with a severe, unpredictable heart condition. She's doing this at the exact same school where her life was completely destroyed 18 months ago.
Yep.
Add to that, a wealthy family hiding dark marital secrets, a house deliberately stripped of its history, a paranoid husband cornering the nanny, a wife throwing cell phones in a blind rage, and a simmering, highly inappropriate romantic triangle playing out on a sailboat.
It is the absolute definition of a powder keg, and every single time Sloane tells another lie to cover her tracks, every time she adds another layer of spackle to the facade of Caitlin, she isn't protecting herself. She's just rapidly shortening the fuse on a bomb that is guaranteed to level everyone involved.
Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final lingering thought, a little something to chew on after you take your headphones off. We've spent the last hour meticulously analyzing Sloane's lies. We've dissected her pathological need to invent a life out of thin air, to use deception as a ladder to climb out of her grim reality.
Right.
And look, it is incredibly easy to judge her for that. It's easy to condemn the lie of fabrication, the overt act of making something up. But I want you to consider the concept of the omission of truth.
That is a vital, profound distinction to make when looking at human behavior.
We judge Sloane harshly for inventing a life, for pasting together a fake identity. But think about your own life. Think about the people you know. How often do we, acting exactly like the Lockharts, meticulously curate our homes and our public personas to hide our flaws?
All the time.
How often do people hide the messy, complicated family photos? How often do couples smile brightly at a dinner party, performing the role of a happy marriage when they are miserable and fractured behind closed doors, just for the sake of the neighborhood's perception?
It happens every day.
If a lie of fabrication, inventing a story from scratch, makes Sloane a villain, what does a lie of omission make the rest of us? Take a hard look at the perfect lives in your own social circles. Look at the people with the pristine brownstones, the flawless Instagram grids, the children who never seem to throw tantrums, and ask yourself, what are they leaving out? What lies of omission are they telling you every single day?
It's a chilling thought, and it serves as the perfect lens through which to view not just the rest of this incredible book, but the highly curated, beautifully filtered reality we all navigate every time we step out our front doors.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Count My Lies. Keep questioning the narratives presented to you, keep looking closely for the cracks in the facade, and we will see you next time.